Well, hi there. So in this video, we're going to be doing the module 53, which is corresponding with 3.2 about marginal revenue, marginal cost, and profit. And so the first couple of problems just give you kind of a table and says, here's the amount of output and the total cost that corresponds with each of those levels of output. And it says, suppose they can sell as many units of output as they want for a price of 15, and the total costs are as listed. Use the optimal output rule to determine the profit maximizing level of output for the firm. So part A is asking us to find where MR equals MC, the quantity where that's true. And the first piece of information we need to know is that, well, for a perfectly competitive firm, the price is equal to the marginal revenue. So we're looking for where the price or marginal revenue is equal to $15. And in order to find the marginal costs, that's going to be the change between each unit, the additional cost associated with each additional unit. So when we move from the 0th to the first unit, we go from 2 to 8, that's 8. Then 10 to 20 is 10. 20 to 33 is 13. 33 to 50 is 17. And then we have the last one is 21. So the marginal costs here don't line up with the equal sign. So that means we're going to look for the last unit where the marginal cost is greater than or equal, or the marginal revenue, is greater than or equal to the marginal cost. It wouldn't make sense to produce a unit if the additional cost of that unit was greater than the additional revenue that we got. That wouldn't make any sense. So we want to find that one, and that's going to correspond to level of output quantity 3. And so we'd say Q3 because the marginal revenue, right, and this is kind of going to be my first arrow, marginal revenue of 15 is greater than or equal to the marginal cost, which is 13. And this is an important part of this, is saying, why wouldn't we produce the next one? Not Q4, because the marginal cost, which is Q4 is 17, is greater than the marginal revenue of 15. And what we're doing here by saying, and not the next one, is by saying that that's one we wouldn't produce. That's what we really mean by marginal analysis, is like, why do we pick the unit we do and then not the unit that's the next one beyond it? Part B, graph the firm's MC and MR curves and show the profit maximizing level of output. So for part B, we're just graphing that firm graph. And so it is still price and quantity. We know that marginal revenue is that horizontal line, MR equals demand equals the price. And we know that's the firm's demand curve, and that's the price that the firm charges. And we also know that that's 15 for this particular product. Then we know that a marginal cost curve comes down, goes back up, marginal cost. That's the firm's supply curve, and they produce this quantity, which would be 3. Quantity 3 is our profit maximizing quantity, where MR equals MC. Technically, we know that like it's actually this, it would be like right here, because this would be a unit where that marginal revenue is still bigger than the marginal cost. But normally we would go ahead and put that label where MR equals MC anyways, although I know that this data doesn't quite reflect that. All right, let's take a look at the second one that says use a graph to illustrate the typical shape of MR and MC. So we're doing that process all over again, right? Just one more time, good practice. We have MR and MC, and then assume all the units of output can be sold for 5. So we have $5, right? That's the price. And then indicate the firm's profit maximizing level of output with Q star on the appropriate axis. So we go drop down, Q star, bada bing, bada boom, done. Let's take a look at the multiple choice questions for module 53. We'll take a look here. The first 3 ask you to use a data table, and this is the data table that they provided for you. What's the marginal revenue of the third unit of output? So that's the change in the total revenue associated with that unit. And so we have 18 as the change in revenue, and so we'd say that's the marginal. What's the marginal cost of the first unit of output? Well, again, that's going from 0 to 1, and that rate of change is 16. So 16. At what level of output is profit maximized? Well, we can observe that every single one of these units, the marginal revenue is 18. So I'm going to look farther down this table and see that here, when we change from here to here, that's a marginal cost of 16. When we change from here to here, it's a marginal cost of 12. When we change from here to here, it's a marginal cost of 20. Again, we could have gone in these earlier units, but what we'll find is that it's going to kind of come down, right, and then go back up again. And what we're looking for is like that quantity. What's that quantity? And for us, it's going to be basically before we get to the 6th unit, we're going to produce this 5th unit. and we maximize profit. And how do I know that? Well, I know that the marginal revenue of that fifth unit is 18, and I know the marginal cost is 16, whereas for the sixth unit, the marginal cost is 20, and we wouldn't want to produce that unit because we're only getting 18 of revenue from the sixth unit as well. For number 4, a firm should continue to produce as long as its economic profit is greater than 0. The idea of normal economic profit of 0, is telling you kind of you're in this equilibrium state. But as long as your economic profit is greater than or equal to 0, then you should actually continue to be producing. So we would say at least 0 economic profit. That tells me I should still stay in this business. A firm's earns a normal profit. Well, that's just the definition. That's economic profit equals 0. And so we would say, what does that work? Well, not accounting profit. No, that's different. Economic profit's positive. No, that's not normal. Total revenue equals total cost. That's one way that we can absolutely think about those. And in thinking about like what that amount is, would be if our TR was 2,000 and our total cost was 2,000, then that means our profit is 0. And so that actually would be a 0 economic profit outcome. Now, D and E, let's take a look at those for just a quick sec. Accounting profit equals economic profit. That typically isn't going to happen. Like that can't happen, because economic profit is always going to be a smaller number than accounting profit, because economic profit includes implicit costs. And then last part here, economic profit is equal to its total explicit and implicit costs. That may sound like the right answer, but in fact, economic profit is just actually the total revenue minus your explicit and your implicit costs. And that's actually what economic profit is. So in other words, TR minus the explicit minus the implicit gives us the economic profit. And so even though that last one might sound really tempting, these two values are not necessarily going to be the same as econ profit and still earn normal economic profit. So we'd say C is the correct answer here. So we have C for the first one, C for the second one, D, E, and then the last one is C. Hopefully this helped you. I'll see you next time.